Hey guys, Joey here with Joe's RV Tech DIY. In this video, we're going to talk a little bit about the Utopia kitchen faucet. Some of the most common things that we will see with these faucets, how they're actually held in place on your countertop, how you can do it yourself. So I do like to use these flare fittings. So when I'm installing it, this flare fitting will go on the cold side and the hot side. But these come disassembled, and it also will kind of teach you guys, if you have one of these in your RV, what I want to point out here is that this O-ring right here, sometimes this O-ring will fail and it can allow water to bypass, and it'll come out the base of the actual faucet itself or the top here. So when you're installing this faucet, when I am on all these RVs, you do have to make sure that you press this on enough so that the O-ring seals, and you just press, and then you can see that the white is flush with where you're supposed to now run this down, and you thread this on. And you want to thread it on all the way until it's tight, but you don't want to over tighten it because you still want to be able to turn it back and forth. So that's tight. We could turn it back and forth. So this, give it a little tiny funnel snug. It's good. So now that that's done, you would take this faucet, assuming you already removed your other one, and place it directly through the holes in your countertop, which the holes through your countertop are going to look something like this here on each side. If you look in this bracket I'm holding in my hand, they'll be a little bit bigger. So this center hole is if you have a three-piece where you have the water that comes out the top, like it slides out like a residential faucet. So disregard that. But if you do have the hole just in the middle as well, you have a few different options you can use. But let's just focus on the Utopia for now. So you want to reuse this bracket. If you removed your old faucet, prep the area by cleaning it first, and then you want to put this piece of plastic on, and it actually just clips on to the bottom of the Utopia faucet. So you would put this on your countertop where the sink is, through the holes, and it goes through the bottom. Now, assuming this has gone through the holes and we're underneath the sink now, these little pieces here, you'll thread these on until they're tight all the way to the bottom of the countertop. And you want to square it up top so it looks nice. So we do that on both sides where it's firm up against the countertop. This is a really hard video to make in the RV itself, in the live environment, because there's not a lot of room or lighting underneath the kitchen cabinets of most RVs. So one thing we've been considering is taking an actual sink and showing this video as well. So now, assuming this is tight, everything's standing up like so, it looks really good, you like the placement of it, you would then hook up your water lines. So the water line might look something like this here. We have a piece of blue PEX, and then I like to use this style of flare fitting for kitchen faucets because they're less likely to leak and they're harder to over tighten, and they grab really nice, so they're a little bit harder to cross thread as well. The last thing you want to do is cross thread these, so you just lightly kind of just turn it on there and it'll naturally go to where it wants to go, but you just want to make sure it's lined up. As you can see, I'm having a heck of a time here in the video because I'm dealing with the weight of the PEX. So now that we're started, that's on. You're going to do your cold side, your hot side. If you are replacing your fittings, these flare fittings sometimes are a little bit longer than the OEM fittings that were on the PEX before. So you want to measure that, and you'll want to trim down your PEX a little bit to make up for that, so that you're not putting a whole bunch of pressure. I come job after job and I'll see all this pressure on a piece of PEX like this underneath the sink. And I'm like, oh, what happened there? And you know, some technician didn't take the time to trim down the excess and actually make it to where there's no pressure on it. So if you leave pressure on this, just know driving down the road, this goes like this sometimes. Because of the pressure, it's like spring loaded. So when you hit a bump, this goes like that. And if this goes like that, you know what's gonna happen over time is you're gonna spring a leak in the bottom here. This is gonna rip out. A number of things can happen. This could get damaged, cracked, it's gonna leak. You're not gonna know, you're gonna get to your destination and you're gonna have a bad trip. So, no pressure on our PEX lines when we are hooking them up to the actual faucet itself. We want them to be long enough, but we don't want them to be too long. And if you guys have any questions about how to repair these, just know you can replace that O-ring inside there. And then these handles, they are removable. I don't recommend removing them yourself and doing any work on them because most people mess them up. As cheap as the Utopia kitchen faucets are, sometimes it's better just to buy a brand new one. We'll post a link below where you guys can get a wide variety of different kitchen faucets for your RV, from your budget one to your premier models that are a little bit more money. But just know on some of the upper end ones, they're actually a little bit harder to install, but they're still the same concept. So we do see people that will go to your local hardware store and they will buy flex line and then it ends up not working because they're trying to tighten it up and there's no, it's not the same as a house faucet per se, but a lot of houses nowadays are actually being installed for their plumbing with PEX and flare fittings and crimp fittings and all that good stuff. So I don't mean to give you guys too much information, but like I said, this is a Utopia kitchen faucet, very common in Class C motorhomes, travel trailers, and also very common for them to leak at the base up here, and then another place right here out the front. If you leave it full of water and it freezes, this whole neck can crack and will need to be replaced. And when that happens, you just replace the whole water faucet. If the O-ring goes out and fails, you can buy a new O-ring, but most people just replace the entire faucet itself. It's not that hard. It should take you anywhere from an hour to 2 hours tops to change out a kitchen faucet. Probably an hour once you get good at it. 2 hours if it's your first time. Don't be intimidated by it, but make sure you have a backup plan in case you can't complete the job. So as with anything, you know, you want to be very careful that you don't have any open electricity around. You want to drain the water out of the system before you take any lines off. You know, you just want to make sure that you're actually prepared. So I always put down a few towels because even if you drain the actual PEX plumbing lines, they can still have water in them, and when you unhook them, you can leak as much as a half gallon, a gallon of water. And as we all know, wood and water don't mix in RVs and it can swell up. So be prepared and prepare your area with towels so that you can absorb that water as it comes down. But one of the best things I can tell you is to drain your system and just act like you're winterizing it, but blow it out with air. So until next time, if you guys have any questions, feel free to comment below. I'll post some links in the description for some plumbing parts and kitchen faucets that you guys can get online. And safe travels. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. Thanks for watching.